An embarrassing revelation for the Miles government in the last 24 hours after the Australian newspaper, through Freedom of Information, has revealed secret taxpayer-funded polling costing over $1 million. Now, that polling included apparently results that sounded the death knell for the former Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk last December, pointing out how unpopular she was, and there was no way she was going to win an election there in October this year. Joining us now, our Friday regular, former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman. You had a bit of rain up there today, Campbell.
Steve, it's been extraordinary actually. By about 9 o'clock this morning, we'd had 200 millimetres in the sort of the central part of Brisbane. Just overnight. So, yeah, the place is awash. And I've only just got here on time, by the way, for your show, thanks to the traffic gridlock that then arises in Brisbane.
A pleasure. Now, every party does polling. You would have been involved in polling yourself in your political career. But do most political parties in state governments spend this much money and then try and keep it secret? Yeah,
look, It is a bit of a racket these days that governments engage in, and true confessions. We probably did a bit of that in relation to checking what the committee thought about the sale and of assets or the leasing of assets. So I've got to be fair about that. But I think the thing is that it really did show that Anastasia Palaszczuk was terribly on the nose in October, November last year. And that prompted her removal by the unions, of course. And it now remains to be seen how Stephen Miles is going with the reset. The thing I'm interested in, and particularly, is even in October, November last year, the Labor government was seen as being very weak on dealing with youth crime and the cost of living. Only 1 in 5, or less than 1 in 5 Queenslanders thought they were doing a good job on youth crime. And frankly, as we've been talking about on your show, it's only got worse since then.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone would answer a question about whether the Labor government in Queensland or the Labor government in Victoria, in fact, are dealing with youth crime in a proper way. They simply have lost control of the streets, and night after night after night, and you had that own problem in your own street. It's just an ongoing issue. They don't seem to have an answer.
Well, they don't, and we've also seen media reports in the Courier Mail in the last 24 hours or so of the state of play within the Queensland Police Service. I've called previously on your show for the Police Commissioner to really stand up and show leadership. Well, the Courier Mail's reporting that there's rumblings in the senior ranks against the Commissioner, but also then down in the rank and file, there's people on stress leave, people not wanting to turn up to work. There's also great dissatisfaction about the backup that they're being given from the top brass. So this has to be sorted out. And what does Miles do as Premier this week? He tries to go off and have a distraction to the agenda by sort of talking about changes to laws, to perhaps quite worthy changes to laws to decriminalise sort of aspects of sex work. But Queenslanders want the youth crime issue dealt with, Steve.
They all love a diversion, Campbell, as you know. Just before we get on to the homeless crisis, I want to talk to you about rents and what that costs in Queensland. Just talking to Ted O'Brien there, with your political experience, do you believe that the federal coalition will have the bottle to go to an election arguing for nuclear?
Well, it sounds like it, mate, and I think it's, as you said, it is now a contest of ideas, which is really exciting. I really hope they do. Nuclear's time has come. I've been an advocate for some time, and I think that across the political divide, by the way, that there are plenty of sensible people who get that we won't sort of reduce carbon emissions by sort of windmills and solar panels. It just won't happen. It's too expensive. And the idea of putting in small modular reactors in sort of key locations across the national grid where there were previously coal-fired power stations makes a lot of sense. And I think Ted O'Brien's on a winner. But again, I really point out, you've got people from the AWU who've supported this. You've got people who are, card-carrying members of the Labor Party who believe this is the right thing to do. It's only people like Bowen and the Prime Minister that are so dug in an ideological sense but they won't actually do what's right and practical.